Hi guys. Today we're going to review Zack Snyder's Justice League, and we'll get to that right after this. The beginning of a new year is when many people start thinking about their goals, and I'm no exception. The Goal Process 101 ebook has helped me clarify the best and most achievable goals for me, plus helped me set a plan in place to accomplish them. I mean, this podcast is just one of the results of using the Goal Process 101 ebook. Check it out at christiannerdsunite.com/goals. It helped me. I'm sure it can help you too. Now, back to the show. Before we get into the show, I have just a couple of scriptures for you. First, Proverbs 27:17. As iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And Proverbs 17:17. A friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. That second verse is very meaningful for me. That a brother is born for a time of adversity, whether it's a natural brother or a brother in Christ or a friend that's just like a brother. I always say you don't need a lot of friends, but you do need one or two really good ones. And one of my very best friends is going to be my guest this week. We have spent a lot of time together over the last few years. He's very special to me. He has shown up in the middle of the night at one of my darkest moments, when I thought I was going to be losing my wife. He's very special to me, and our conversation tonight is all about Zack Snyder's Justice League. We're going to get into some spoiler territory, so be aware. But I think most of you have probably at least seen the Justice League theatrical cut. And you won't be super surprised by anything we're going to say, especially if you've been following the stories behind Zack Snyder's Justice League. So let's get right to it. And I'm back, and I have with me my very good friend, Mr. Mike Schilling. He is the host of the Something About Something show. It's a live show that's on Wednesday nights on Facebook, and he's the host, and it's on the Something About Something Facebook page. I'm actually the co-host, and I work with Mike. So, hey, Mike, tell the people at home a little about yourself.
Myself? Well, I've been in IT for about 20 years. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek. Video games, comics, you name it. We've been wanting to do a podcast for a very long time. So me and Ricky, it's been about 3 years now.
Yeah.
Third season.
Something like that.
Yeah. So
we just up and decided to. We'd both been talking about it for a long time, and we just up and decided to do it one night. It was a little ridiculous, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Good thing you edit this thing. That's good. It's going to be really good when you edit it. So,
hey, I don't edit these interviews. We just let them roll.
Oh man, that's good.
But things are Something About Something shows a little different.
It is different. It's
how would you describe Something About Something?
It's this is Christian Nerds, right? Okay.
Yes.
So we're a little bit different. we try to stay family friendly, but we kind of like playing the edges. But
there's a lot of poop jokes.
Yeah, poop. Yeah, we stay away from our big thing. We stay away from politics. We stay away from beliefs. We stay away from anything that can cause a debate or an argument unless it's nerd related. and we have ground rules for that. But we have a great group that comes and comments with us every Wednesday night, and it's been really fun. So
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely,
yeah,
you should check out the show. It may or may not be for you, but I really enjoy hanging out with Mike every Wednesday night. It's been a blast over the last 3 years, my friend. Well,
been really good.
tonight we are going to talk about what we thought about Zack Snyder's Justice League. Are you ready to talk about that?
I am ready.
And
I've
you're,
been
you're
really
a DC
excited.
fan.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Tell me about being a DC fan. How does that feel in general? Because I'm a Marvel guy.
Well, see, again, being a DC fan, the early years were awesome, and
When you say the early years,
well, for me, it's like the Michael Keaton years, Batman the animated series years, as far as animation and comics.
yeah,
Probably the last comics I really enjoyed was the Batman 52. Yes, I'm a Batman fan, as you can tell. I'm saying Batman several times. I try to get into the WB series, but there's too much content in it that I'm not a fan of.
and there's a lot of it.
yeah, yeah, and I'm my thing is let's comics and superheroes stand with them, stand for themselves. You don't have to add any type of agenda. You don't have to add anything that, just let the story stand for itself and just tell a good story. But being a DC fan, I grew up, I loved Superman, Batman. Used to, remember as a kid, watch Super Friends. Remember that?
Oh yes, my
Yeah.
friend, Super Friends.
Yeah.
Wonder Twin powers activate.
Now I can't watch it. I can't watch it now because it's. But yeah,
Is that because it would be creepy for an old man to watch Super Friends, or are you saying it's a little cringy?
both, both.
Yeah, I've got some old fandoms that I have fond memories of, and then when I go back and rewatch them, I'm like, man, that's not nearly as good as my memory was.
Oh, I know. It's like Wonder Woman. The Hulk. I'm talking about 1970s. The Hulk. I'm talking about 1970s.
Wonder Woman, Linda
Wonder
Carter.
Woman, Linda Carter.
Yeah.
But But as a DC fan, where it comes right down to it for me is that I love Marvel as well. And what's really hard for me as a DC fan is watching how well Marvel is executing and having their universe and how they're able to interweave everything from their series on Disney Plus, even when they were doing Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. that was on ABC at the time. How they're able to keep a continuity, and then Warner Brothers have no clue what they want to do. And this is an example of what we're going to talk about tonight with Zack Snyder. And if you get a chance, there's a great backstory, I think, in Variety about Zack Snyder and his struggle. But I know tonight we're going to talk about more about the review. And
let's kind of go there. So the DCEU has had kind of a rough go.
Yeah, they have
theatrically.
Yeah.
They got a lot of bad press, bad fan backlash. Personally, I think a lot of that came from the studio putting restrictions on the directors that really shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
Saying the movie can only be this long. Yeah, I'm sorry you wrote a 3-hour movie. You can only have 2.
Exactly, yeah.
I think there were a lot of limitations placed on people that caused problems.
Exactly.
Now, of course, we have with the Justice League, it's a little bit different kind of situation.
Yeah, it's
and
deeper.
just to make sure everybody's on the same page, when Justice League was released theatrically, it basically had 2 directors.
Yeah, they had one with Zack Snyder, who actually he was, and it's funny because even when the movie came out, it was still Zack Snyder, even though he
was
left.
still he was still written as the director, even though probably what came out was not his vision at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Not after watching. Yeah, not after watching his cut. Yeah, definitely.
Oh my goodness! And he had a pretty tragic event happen in his family, caused him to leave the film halfway through. And then we had Josh Whedon come in. And try to finish the movie. And when he tried to finish the movie, he basically rewrote a lot of it, reshot a lot of it, and we have a considerably different Justice League because of that. So finally we have, the hashtag Snyder cut. Everybody was released the Snyder cut forever and ever and ever. And we finally have one 4 hours long and released on HBO Max and just HBO Max.
Yeah.
It is a considerably different movie. And what is your what's kind of your first impression? Just if you just say, if I just say, what did you think of Zack Snyder's Justice League?
It's the Justice League that we deserved in the first place. That's
there's a Batman line somewhere in there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
this is the DCEU we deserve.
We
or
deserve.
Need.
We need. I mean, when I first heard that there was going to be 4 hours long, I'm thinking, okay, well, he's going to do it as an episode. Episode 1, 2, and 3, and now it's actually 4 hours long. And I find interesting in it is that he does have it separated in different chapters, but they're not as far as broken up like you would go on Netflix, like, episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. But it was brilliant. And I love the little, every time that, chapter 1 would have this title, chapter 2 would have this title. And I was just blown away. And I was going to watch the original Justice League after watching this one because I wanted to see because I've seen it before. I've seen the original before, but it's been a while, and I thought I was going to go ahead and watch it again. But after watching this, I don't want to do that. I don't want to watch the original one. And I'm not saying that it was immaculate, that they had some, I had some issues with some of the scenes. Not so much they were bad scenes, they just didn't need to be in there. But for the most part, I really enjoyed it. And I think the big thing between the two films is that I actually understand now what's going on. With the first one, is the key. I now know what's going on. And we're not talking about dumbing it down. There's some movies where they add things that there's no reason to. We're not done. We keep the mystery, keep things the way they are. There
are things, and I say this often about movies. Yeah. There are some things you didn't need to explain that to us. Just show it to us. Yeah. Let us move on. That's my big thing with the Solo movie. I actually like the Solo movie.
It's a good movie.
You didn't have to explain why his last name is Solo. No, especially since you gave such a lame reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But I definitely agree with you. I think this longer cut, there are so many things that now they make sense. So many things are not explained so much as they just are clear.
Yeah, they are.
There were things that happened in the theatrical cut that you went, why did that happen?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, now we see why it happened, because there was a whole scene that needed to exist for you to understand why that was even a thing.
One particular character I'm really glad that they emphasized on and they gave him some backstory is Cyborg.
Absolutely.
I think it was a hidden gem. If anybody should have a standalone movie, I think that actor, I can't remember his name, but I think the character Cyborg would make a great movie within itself. And it was great. I mean, it had a real deep, and for me, it was one of the deepest stories there. I mean, it was very deep. It was very sentimental. It was very relational. I think that was it. I don't know. It tugged at my heart, and I thought it was a really good, especially if you look from a father and son aspect of it. So,
yeah, there was some article I read said made a comment about Cyborg was going to be the heart of the movie, and I definitely think he is.
yes, he is. I think on the original one, and of course, I don't know how much the viewers have kept up with the stuff that goes on behind the scenes of the with Josh Whedon and the cast, and let's just say they didn't get along, and especially the actor who played Cyborg, because Zack Snyder had an entire vision for a different vision for Cyborg, and he really wanted to get into the depth of it, the heart of it, and he really wanted to explore that character. And Josh Whedon, actually, if you look at it, when he got involved, Cyborg had little camera time.
Oh yeah,
little time.
Cyborg and Flash really were minor characters,
and really they were the most instrumental in it. And that's the thing. Cyborg is so instrumental, and I didn't realize it until I saw the Snyder cut, and I'm thinking this makes so much more sense. Yep. And of course we don't want to give anything away, but we do.
This is a spoilery. We're going to be
all
spoilery.
Really? Okay.
I'm gonna. At the beginning of this show, I said that this was definitely going to be filled with spoilers, so we're going to be okay.
Well, I'm not going to. Okay, I won't hold back then.
Don't pull any punches. But I will say that one of the things that I liked about this was, especially in the story, I felt like all of the characters had much better motivations for the things they did.
Yeah, exactly.
It made more sense, like you said. I always had a problem with the villain, Steppenwolf.
Yeah, I did too.
It wasn't clear why he was doing what he was doing.
Yeah.
He was just he was an evil guy to be evil.
Yeah.
I want to destroy Earth. Full stop. That why? Why is that a thing? Give me a reason. And now I say, in the Snyder cut, it's very clear why he's doing what he's doing.
Yeah, he's looking for redemption. He's looking for redemption and the approval of Darkseid. And honestly, no one knew there was a Darkseid because in the original, he wasn't even in there. He wasn't even mentioned.
Yes.
And so, so much more depth. I have a greater appreciation for the movie, and the thing is too. Also the big thing for me is that in the Snyder cut, I see an organic relationship building.
Yes.
Where in with the Justice League, the original one, it was just you felt like they were just thrown together, and it was just. It was a quick assembly, and here we go for the action.
Yeah, and speaking of quick assembly, one of the things I really liked in the Snyder cut was we had a long period of Superman being deceased.
Yeah.
In the theatrical cut, it was kind of like he died, 30 minutes later he was alive again.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And it didn't hold weight.
Yeah.
Because we didn't see all the characters struggling because he was gone.
Yeah. Well, you'll have some people out there saying, yes, but Ricky and Mike, Snyder's was 4 hours and the original one was like, I don't know how long, 2 hours.
Yeah, 2 hours, 2 hour 15 maybe. I don't think minutes. It was over. I don't think it was 2:30.
I don't think so. We'll just say around 2 hours, I guess. Yes, but that's the problem though. Something as ambitious as doing the Justice League with all these characters, you have to cultivate, some organic relationships.
Yes.
And so that's what sequels are, if you're not going to do a 4 hour Snyder cut, put everything together and explain it, then that's what sequels are for.
Yes.
And I think that's what DC has an issue with, is that, for instance, the Superman. Well, they're already talking about wanting to do a reboot of Superman
Yeah.
again. Leave it alone. I know people didn't like Henry Cavill as far as the original Superman, because of Zod, killing Zod. But
Yes.
give me a break. Look back at Christopher Reeves. He did some killing himself. He just did it in a unique way.
Yeah.
When you about taking life, the same thing with Batman. I mean, if you really look at it, Batman took
Yeah, I
took
was
it
gonna
a little
say,
hand. So
Yeah, Michael Keaton's Batman. Well, maybe he didn't kill anyone, but just because the sudden stop at the end of the fall killed them.
yeah, there's a cause and effect. There's a cause and effect.
There's a cause and effect there.
Not like watching the A-Team. There's an explosion and everybody's okay. Same with G.I. Joe. Everybody
Yes.
jumps out in a parachute. It's not the same thing. So
Exactly. Now, I am right there with you. I do think that, and this is something I think the DCEU suffered from the get-go.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers wanted to get to the Justice League too fast.
Yeah, they did.
Now, when I look back through the Marvel, series, and then I hit Avengers, and then I go back and I look through the DCEU, and then I hit Justice League. There's really only about 2 extra movies for the Avengers.
Yeah, exactly.
But those 2 extra movies added all the little pieces together that you needed for it to be cohesive by the time they got to the Avengers. And then the Avengers told one simple story.
Yeah, exactly.
Which we've got, you have Batman v Superman, which was really 2 stories crammed together.
Yeah, crammed together.
It was
definitely.
It was the death of Superman story and the Batman and Superman not getting along story.
Yeah.
And they probably should have been 2 separate movies, and it probably really would have helped the Justice League.
I think so too.
This 4-hour Justice League movie easily could have been a Justice League without Superman movie.
Yes.
Where at the end you get the cliffhanger of, we failed, but we still have a chance. We need Superman. And then had a second movie that was bring Superman back.
Yeah, they've been brilliant.
And right up front, the first thing they do in the second movie is bring Superman back, so they have a finish. And I think that could have been brilliant.
So.
But they tried to cram all that stuff in too fast.
And that's the problem, the difference between Marvel and DC. Marvel looks at the details. I mean, there's several things that
they're playing the long game.
They're playing the long game. DC, it's almost like Warner Brothers is driving it, and I think that's one thing about Disney I will give them kudos for, because they're letting Marvel be Marvel and do what they do well.
Yes,
because they know, as far as they're concerned, making money. You leave Marvel alone, and they'll make you money.
Yes,
Warner Brothers haven't caught on to that yet for some reason. You give the right person the helm and let them, hey, DC, you're going to be like Marvel. I'm going to let you do your thing. Get after it. Whether we fail or not, we're going to give it a good try. And that's, they need a Kevin Feige is what they need.
Yeah, they need somebody to helm that ship.
Exactly.
That maybe they're going to direct a movie, but at the very least they're going to be the producer who makes sure everything makes sense in the end.
Yeah. And I think that's the
already
problem.
has the big long story arc. And I think those are big issues. But I feel like the Snyder Cut helps kind of bridge that gap.
It really does.
We've got a expansive story that is now, for the most part, cohesive, and we have explanations for things that didn't really make sense before. I'm not saying there aren't still some plot holes, but every movie's got plot holes. But I think there's a lot to be said that this is a lot better setup. Now there were some differences. I actually did kind of do I didn't watch the whole thing. I kind of skipped through the theatrical release, and I did notice there were some interesting differences.
Yeah.
I would love to actually see a side by side. I know it would be gigantic, 5-hour movie, but a side by side.
Yeah.
Here's what was cut out. Here's what's different. These two scenes are the same, but this one's a little bit longer. This one's a little bit shorter. This one has words. This one doesn't.
Well,
I would love to see something like that. One of the things I thought was really interesting was there's the conversation of bringing Superman back.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how much you remember of each one, but in the theatrical cut, Wonder Woman was highly against it.
Yeah.
In the Zack Snyder cut, Aquaman is highly against it.
Exactly.
And Wonder Woman is for it. And I think it's a fascinating change.
Yeah.
I definitely think somebody needed to be against it. That's, you needed that a little bit of antagonism.
Yeah.
And it makes, in my brain, it makes so much more sense for it to be Aquaman, since he's the one who didn't want to show up until his hand was forced.
Yeah. I mean,
Wonder Woman was kind of in from day one.
She was invested day one. Yes.
She could see on the horizon what was coming already.
Yeah.
She knew bad things were happening. Aquaman wasn't even willing to admit there were problems at home.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
He's like, I'm not admitting there's problems at home. I really don't care about your problems where you're from.
Well, what's funny, you mentioned Aquaman. There was a scene, and it came a lot earlier, and I was surprised because there's some scenes that I remember that were getting close to the middle of the film that Zack Snyder actually brought closer to the front.
Things were moved around.
Like, for one, Bruce Wayne going to find Aquaman, and he's looking down on the village. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, I thought that came a little bit later. But in the film, it was a lot earlier, and he went and kind of one of the first that he's spoken to. And then it was a very long scene. I mean, you have ladies singing, you have a choir. But it was more meaningful. It was really good. But I've noticed that, and that's the things that I wish I can do side by side and go, wait a minute, this scene, call it scene 102. I was actually in scene 95. And
yes.
So and there's some stuff that actually was cut out from the first one.
Yes.
That I've noticed too.
And there's things that there are parts where I go, wait, was that a reshoot? Or is that original footage?
Exactly.
Is that a Zack Snyder reshoot?
Yeah.
Is that a original footage that didn't get used because Josh Whedon reshot something? And there's a major weird spot with Superman returning.
Oh, I know.
Where Superman grabs Bruce and says, "Do you bleed?" which is a callback to Batman v Superman, which is kind of cool and interesting, maybe, but technically they had reconciled before he died.
Yeah, exactly.
So that gets a little weird.
Yeah, a little murky there.
But that whole scene is significantly different.
Oh yeah.
We have Batman with energy absorbing gauntlets that can hold Superman at bay just a little bit.
Exactly.
We've got a Superman who never says a word until he gets his mind back, which I actually think is much better.
Oh, I think it was awesome. I think it was awesome. And, it's in it, Batman was talking about Lois was the key. Lois Lane was the key. And was it Batman say that, or was it Wonder Woman? But
So, well, okay, so that gets a little weird.
yeah,
Because the Flash technically says Lois is the key, but he said it in that weird vision thing that happened in Batman versus Superman, and then it comes back later that's going to be a thing, foreshadowing something else in a movie that probably is never going to be made.
which is sad to me because now there's a movie I want to see now. I mean, after watching that, now that's a movie I want to see.
Yeah, and let's put that one off for just a minute. I want to talk about that here in a little bit.
Yeah,
because I'd like to dwell on it a little bit. But you mentioned Lois being the key. I think it was very interesting. This is another significant change of Superman coming back.
Yeah.
In the original theatrical cut, Lois Lane doesn't just happen to be there. She is Batman's backup plan. If all else fails, we'll bring Lois in. We'll bring the big guns in. And we'll bring Lois in. And that's what they do in the theatrical cut.
Yeah.
Whereas in this one, Lois is never their plan.
Yeah.
The Justice League never has the plan to bring in Lois. She happens to be there, and she steps up. And she saves them.
Yeah.
Not because it was Batman's plan. No, she saved them because she wanted to save them.
Yeah.
She wanted to save Clark.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with Batman's got this ingenious plan, which I thought is brilliant change. What did you think about that?
I like that. I liked it better. It gave the character of Lois a stronger character.
Yeah.
She weren't dependent on the ideas of Batman, his strategies. It was just something she was there because in the film, she would visit the monument several times.
Yes.
Several times. And this particular time she did. And I think there was a scene before that where when they actually resurrected Superman and he basically Star Labs in Central City, and he just blew up and he was in the middle of the air, and that's when Lois saw him. She saw this figment of Clark or Superman in the air. And so I think that's how she originally saw that. Is that Clark? Is that him? And so later on, I think that's when she went to go find out, and she went to the monument, and that's the story there. But a lot of different changes. So much better. The one in particular I thought was interesting was but Superman decided he's wearing the black costume.
Yes.
And that was so different, with the first one. Of course, it's the normal,
the red and blue and yellow.
Yeah.
And from what I've read, that is all a CGI change. It's not, they didn't reshoot it.
Oh, really?
That's all footage that was originally shot with the red and blue and yellow
they were able to take that off in his mustache. That's impressive.
I did hear that there are a lot fewer shots in the movie, or maybe no shots in the movie, that have a CGI removed mustache now.
Oh, good. Good.
I'm not sure if it's zero. And see, this is a question I have. Did he actually manage to remove everything that Josh Whedon shot? Or did he still have to use something that Josh Whedon did because he didn't get to complete it the first time?
That's a good question.
I know a lot of people, you read the articles and it's all, he removed everything that Josh Whedon did from the movie. And I go, but did he really?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm not sure that we'll ever know. Mike and I talked so long that I had to split it up into 2 episodes. So join me next week and we'll continue this conversation. Now, don't forget, you can find all of our social links, our online store, and links to our YouTube channel at ChristianNerdsUnite.com. And while you're there, click on the support tab. Check on our Patreon. Consider donating. Every little bit helps us defer some of the costs that we have keeping the show up and going. But before we go, I do want to pray a special blessing over you. May you be blessed with good friends. May you learn to be a good friend yourself. May you treasure your friends. May you be good to them, and may you be there for them on life's journey. And may God bring you closer to each other as you draw closer to God. We'll see you next week.